National e-Governance. Let me extend a very warm and hearty welcome to all colleagues to the second National e-Governance webinar series. This has been designed as a platform for public administrators, the award winners from the National e-Governance conferences, National e-Governance awards for the year 2023 to present their successful initiatives on a national platform. We had the first webinar last month and it was extremely successful, attended by more than 570 officials. Today's theme is Excellence in Government Process Reengineering for Digital Transformation at the Central Level. As you are aware, government process reengineering for digital transformation has brought in a tremendous revolution in governance models of India. Today, everybody has moved from technologically obsolete institutions into modern digital institutions with more and more services being placed online. We have two successful initiatives, the e-Panchayat Mission Mode project, the e-Gram Swaraj and Audit Online of the Ministry of Panchayati Raj of the Government of India, and the PM Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, the PM Swanidhi of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs that are being presented. Let me introduce the speakers. Shri Alok Prem Nagar currently serves as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. He is a BTech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Kanpur in 1992 and joined the Indian Forest Service, Himachal Pradesh cadre in 1995. He has served as an associate professor in the Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy and successfully negotiated the Himachal Pradesh Forest Livelihood Improvements and Ecosystem Management Project with JICA. Since 2019, he serves as a joint secretary in the Ministry of Panchayati Raj and has been working on various marquee projects of MOPR like e-Governance, e-Panchayat Mission Mode project, implementation of the Swamitwa scheme, Local Government Directory, the LGD scheme, and the Spatial Geographics, Urbanizing Panchayats, and other areas. Our second speaker today is Sri Rahul Kapoor, who presently serves as Joint Secretary and Mission Director of the National Urban Livelihoods Mission and the PM Swanidhi in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. These missions aim to reduce poverty and vulnerability of the urban poor households of India, and Sri Rahul Kapoor has vast experience of the urban sector with his earlier association in the Smart Cities mission in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. He is from the Indian Railway Account Service and has had experience in government infrastructure and finance and has served as Director of Finance, Public-Private Partnerships in the Ministry of Railways. He has also worked as Director of Banking in Ministry of Defence, and with a background in economics, he is a recipient of the National Award for Outstanding Performance while working in government. So welcome to both our National e-Governance Award winners. And before I invite the first speaker, Sri Alok Prem Nagar, to speak, we will have a small film on the awarded initiatives.
बदलते भारत की बदलती तस्वीर विश्व को भा रही है। डिजिटल इंडिया की क्रांति अब घर घर आ रही है। भारत सरकार का पंचायती राज मंत्रालय ग्रामीण जीवन को बेहतर बनाने और पंचायतों के कार्यों को और सहज और सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए तकनीक के माध्यम से नए-नए अवसर ला रहा है। पंचायतों में धन के प्रवाह और किए गए व्यय की लगातार निगरानी के लिए प्रौद्योगिकियों का लाभ उठा रहा है। इसी प्रतिबद्धता को आगे बढ़ाते हुए भारत सरकार का पंचायती राज मंत्रालय ग्राम पंचायतों के अलग-अलग कामों का लेखा जोखा रखने के लिए एक प्रभावी सिंगल प्लेटफॉर्म ऑडिट ऑनलाइन लाया है। ऑडिट ऑनलाइन लाया है। ई पंचायत मिशन को बल देता ऑडिट ऑनलाइन आंतरिक और बाहरी दोनों के लिए विवरण रिकॉर्ड करने की सुविधा प्रदान कर रहा है। अपनी स्थापना के बाद से राज्यों ने ऑडिट ऑनलाइन पर उल्लेखनीय प्रगति की। तथा लेखांकन अवधि 2021-22 में पंचायत खातों के 100% लेखांकन की दशा में प्रगति करते हुए 2 लाख से अधिक ऑडिट रिपोर्ट तैयार की गई। ऑडिट के माध्यम से जवाबदेही को सुदृढ़ बनाने तथा ऑडिट परीक्षण पर की गई कार्रवाई की यथास्थिति प्रदान करने के लिए मंत्रालय द्वारा एक्शन टेकन रिपोर्ट प्रस्तुत किया जा रहा है, ताकि ऑडिट रिपोर्ट सार्वजनिक डोमेन में प्रदर्शित हो सके। अब गांव का हर व्यक्ति बड़ी आसानी से अपने गांव में होने वाले विकास कार्यों और उस पर हुए खर्च की जानकारी ले सकता है। ये ऑडिट प्रक्रिया को समय पर पूरा करना सुनिश्चित करेगा और ऑडिटर्स को सूचना पत्र का जवाब देने सहित उठाए गए ऑडिटर्स की आपत्तियों या टिप्पणियों पर तेजी से कार्रवाई करने में सक्षम बनाएगा। इसका मुख्य उद्देश्य पंचायत कार्य प्रणाली में अंतर्दृष्टि प्राप्त करने के लिए लेखा परीक्षा का विश्लेषण करना तथा अवलोकन विश्लेषण रिपोर्ट की पारदर्शिता को और मजबूत करना और पंचायतों को और सुदृढ़ बनाने में अपनी जिम्मेदारी निभा सकता है। स्थानीय स्वशासन का तीसरा स्तर होने के नाते पंचायतों को कार्रवाई रिपोर्ट ग्राम सभा के समक्ष रखनी होगी, जिससे स्थानीय शासन में पारदर्शिता और लोकतंत्र को सही मायने में कायम रखा जा सके। भारत के गांवों को आधुनिक बनाती विश्वसनीय पंचायत, पारदर्शिता से प्रगति के रास्ते खोलती समृद्ध पंचायत।
आज तक कभी उन साथियों के बारे में नहीं सोचा गया जो रेहड़ी लगाते, पटरी पर बैठकर, फुटपाथ पर बैठकर सामान बेचते, ठेला चलाते। हम इन साथियों को स्वनिधि योजना के जरिए बैंकिंग व्यवस्था से जोड़ा जा रहा है।
कोरोना संकट के दौर में स्ट्रीट वेंडर सबसे ज्यादा प्रभावित हुए। ऐसे लाखों लोगों की जीविका को पुनर्जीवित कर उन्हें आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के लिए आवासन और शहरी कार्य मंत्रालय भारत सरकार द्वारा प्रधानमंत्री स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स आत्मनिर्भर निधि यानी पीएम स्वनिधि योजना की शुरुआत की। इसके तहत स्ट्रीट वेंडर 10,000 रुपए तक का लोन लेकर अपना व्यापार नए सिरे से शुरू कर सकता है। पहले कर्ज के भुगतान पर वो दूसरे और तीसरे चरण में 20,000 रुपए और 50,000 रुपए का लोन ले सकता है। अब तक इस योजना के अंतर्गत लाखों वेंडर्स को लोन दिया जा चुका है, जिसमें से 40% से ज्यादा लाभार्थी महिलाएं हैं। स्ट्रीट वेंडर किसी भी म्यूनिसिपैलिटी कार्यालय या पीएम स्वनिधि के वेबसाइट पर जाकर आवेदन कर सकते हैं। इस लोन के लिए किसी भी सिक्योरिटी अथवा कोलैटरल की आवश्यकता नहीं है। लोन की राशि समय से लौटाने पर 7% की ब्याज सब्सिडी दी जाती है। डिजिटल लेन देन को प्रोत्साहित करने के लिए 100 रुपए तक का प्रति माह कैशबैक दिया जाता है। लाभार्थियों को डिजिटल लेन देन का प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है।
प्रधानमंत्री स्वनिधि योजना की वजह से हमारे जो रेहड़ी पटरी वाले भाई और बहन हैं, अब उनकी भी डिजिटल हिस्ट्री बन रही है। आपके नगर के अंदर ये जो रेहड़ी पटरी वाले हैं, उनको मोबाइल फोन पर डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन सिखाइए।
ये योजना सिर्फ लोन देने तक सीमित नहीं है, बल्कि इस योजना का उद्देश्य उनके पूरे परिवार का सामाजिक और आर्थिक विकास कर उन्हें सुरक्षा कवच प्रदान करना है। पीएम स्वनिधि के लाभार्थियों के परिवार को भारत सरकार की 8 कल्याणकारी योजनाओं से जोड़ा जाता है। उनकी पात्रता के अनुसार उन्हें बीमा, पेंशन, खाद्य सुरक्षा, मातृत्व सुरक्षा, श्रम कल्याण और वित्तीय समावेशन की योजनाओं से जोड़ा जाता है। स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स अपने स्वादिष्ट व्यंजनों का ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर लेने के बाद होम डिलीवरी भी कर रहे हैं। पीएम स्वनिधि ने लाखों रेहड़ी पटरी वालों को न केवल पहचान दिलाई है, बल्कि उनके लिए विकास का एक नया दौर शुरू किया है। रेहड़ी पटरी वाले आत्मनिर्भर, पीएम स्वनिधि के दम पर।
The films were very impressive viewing, and thank you for preparing the films. May I now invite Sri Alok Prem Nagar, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, to make the first presentation, please.
Thank you very much, sir. respected members of the audience, thank you for the opportunity. We are looking to make panchayats the growth centers and drivers of rural transformation so they may truly realize their mandate under the amendment of the Constitution. And out of all these functions that have been listed, which are components of our vision, the Ministry of Panchayati Raj has a scheme dedicated only to the capacity building of elected representatives and panchayat functionaries, which is the bar, the gray bar in the center. So that just gives us a sense of the challenge that the way of bringing about this transformation, wherein panchayats become really the drivers, one has to use a lot of nudging, and one has to create systems that add value to what the people are already doing, and then which are beneficial to them in more ways than one. The technology has to be leveraged to deliver good governance in rural areas. Good governance, apart from what it generally means, sir, we are also looking to have panchayats dedicate themselves to all the 29 sectors, focus areas that are mapped to them in the 11th schedule. So that has been a challenge, and through re-engineering in the process, we've tried to insert elements of this, enhance transparency and accountability so that they would have more credibility. So things have been done in this vertical as well, and enhance the end-to-end experience of delivering public services. So the panchayats have to be seen as being able to provide, or need to be empowered sufficiently, and they need to have the decision support tools to so that they can determine the activities that they are going to deploy their funds doing. So to begin with, sir, in the year 2011, I think, when there was the first big meeting held, when it was decided what all panchayats would need to have, there were all these applications that were conceived of, all of them good and solid, and evidence of that is their perseverance till date. So there was a plan plus and action soft for the progress monitoring model. There was an accounting, area profiler, national asset directory service plus LGD, of course, and so on. So the challenge was that all these were separate boxes. So one would plan for the application using the planning module, but then how much of that got implemented? So there was an absence of work-based accounting, which is the bottom left issue that has been reported here. So while we were very invested in having the panchayats prepare a great plan, one wasn't sure what was the link between the plan and the actual works that got carried out. There was a lack of data sharing. That is the top right box. One had to make entries in one application and enter into another one and make entries there. So these things didn't talk to each other. There was no real-time tracking of expenditure, and expenditure was typically not being made through a common gateway. What we did in eGram Swaraj, sir, was that we strung out all these boxes. So one had to, of course, create their profile, wherein all the panchayat, the sarpanches, and the ward punches made their disclosed their details. The panchayats had to plan for the finance commission grants and the other grants that were coming to them, and only those activities could be reported upon that found a place in the planning module. So this was the change, that from being separate boxes, we connected them using these arrows. So if one needed to implement an activity that wasn't there in a plan, because the plan was created with a great deal of rigor, and the same rigor was not applied to how the plan got changed. So that element was inserted by stringing these things out, and this was the application. The strung out application was the one that was launched in 2020. The geotagging of assets was mandated. It was integrated. Of course, the mandating of geo tagging of assets. This had started earlier, but the mandate came after 2020. Likewise, the integration with PFMS was something that we'd begun earlier, but then it was mandated, and panchayats could only make payments using the PFMS gateway. So for that, an integration was done. Reverse integration means that panchayats would typically create their receipt vouchers, and sometimes inadvertently and sometimes deliberately there used to be errors. So the amount that was entered did not exactly correspond with the amount that had actually had been credited to their accounts. So through these reverse integration, it became like the accounts that we have when our salary lands up in our savings plan account. And of course, lease arrangements were put in place to inspire confidence among the people that their issues could be resolved within a predefined amount of time. So, corresponding to these boxes, there are these little details. I would like to draw the attention to number 2, which is the planning module. So, everybody knows about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What was done starting from the year 22-23 in some measure, but it came into full force from 23-24. We wanted to make the panchayats more purposive. So typically one found looking at their expenditure reports that 50-60% of their resources were being spent in creating roads, and there was no allocation of funds. Of course, activities related to women and child development do not need so much fund, but the fact that there was nothing dedicated to them at all was a cause for worry. So the 17 SDGs were turned into localized SDGs. I'll be talking about that a little later. And panchayats were requested to take a sankalp, so which was to be one of these 9 localized sustainable development goals, and everything that they did beyond that was purposive. So they could only carry out activities related to that sankalp if they had taken one, which was done in a Gram Sabha meeting. This is the start of our planning module, sir. It begins typically on the 2nd of October each year. And it's a very elaborate system where activities are mapped onto various department representatives at the district, at the state, at the block, at the village level. And panchayats are encouraged to have at least 2 Gram Sabha meetings from the period 2nd October to about the 31st of January, sir. Typically, there are extensions and things typically end in the month of February, actually. But in this process, through the Gram Sabhas that are to be attended by all these department representatives, we get the panchayats to now adopt a resolution, then have the various departments make presentations before them and tell them what schemes are on offer, and then based on that they take their decisions. The facilitators, so this is also converging the resources of the rural development and panchayat raj ministers. So the self-help groups, the community resource personnel typically are the facilitators, and there is a facilitator report at the end of which tells you how many department personnel actually attended a Gram Sabha and what were the decisions taken, how many people attended, how many men, women, and so on. And this box gives you a snapshot of the decisions that have been taken. We are looking to strengthen the role of the panchayat elected representative. Like I said, the SHG women are integrated inextricably into the entire matrix. We would like the panchayats to make decisions that are supported by evidence. So the Mission Antyodaya survey that is carried out every year by the community resource persons, which indicates the gaps in the various sectors, the focus areas that are mapped to the panchayat become a basis. Again, we can't force the panchayats to take decisions based on that, but every time they add an activity, there is a pop-up that asks them, are you addressing a Mission Antyodaya survey gap? So it just meant to shame you if you're not doing it. And it adds up at the end that how many of your activities were dedicated to closing gaps. It inputs into the incentivization scheme. There is a solid campaign. One saw in the film that the people were sitting and there was a blue background. So there is a public information board typically that has to be set up. This is the 17 SDGs being turned into 9 localized SDGs, sir. And there is a primary theme selection. I will just go and show you what those localized SDGs are. So it is not easy to read these, but these colored sectors that you see on the right wheel on the slide, sir. So there are villages with good governance, engendered development. This is something that we started late. It was announced by the Prime Minister on the National Panchayat Raj Day in 2022 in Palli, and that was the first year we did it. But then, over a period of time, we strengthened it more. And so sankalp could be taken for a panchayat to be child friendly or water sufficient or be a clean and green village or be have self sufficient infrastructure, be a socially secured village, have a village with good governance, be a healthy village, and have a poverty free and enhanced livelihood village, and so on. This is a snapshot, sir. At the end of 22-23, what were the sankalps taken? So once you took a sankalp, the die was cast, and subsequent activities that you could have would only be picked up using a drop down menu, and typically they would be activities that were mapped onto the sankalp that you had taken. So, and a panchayat were obliged to devote at least 50% of their untied grants to the sankalp that they had taken. This was the picture in 22-23, again the picture in 23-24. Next slide. But what was significant was this, that between planning and implementation, there was a great deal of match. So, of course, tied grants one couldn't do a lot with, but if you see some of the other sectors that have found reflection in the plans post 22-23, one finds that education and maintenance of community systems, and these things have also started to find a place. What used to happen before the re-engineering was that people would make a wish list of a plan, and when it came to implementing, it was just roads and so on. And this is the same situation that has persisted in the year after that. M Action Soft, sir, is where, in fact, the officers that are connected here would know that already. So that is how we track the progress of a work. A point that was mentioned on the last bullet in the last slide was that now block and Zilla panchayats are also being tracked, because 15th Finance Commission grants have started going not just to the GPs but also to the block and Zilla panchayats. So this is a picture of the enormity of the task that is involved. So we are talking about traditional local bodies plus the panchayats add up to about 2,78,000. There were tied grants, there were untied grants, and these people have varying levels of education and training. They have varying levels of internet connectivity and so on. And one had to provide these grants for the first time to all 3 tiers of the panchayat. So our main objective was have better financial management, have transparency, accountability, pretty much the things that I've been saying from the beginning. But what catches the eye was that since the inception of the e-Gram Swaraj PFMS gateway, sir, 1,55,000 crore rupees payments have been made. There have been issues to begin with. There were niggles, there were payments that were not finalized for weeks on end. There were issues at the level of the banks. There were issues with the PFMS people. So it took us time, but this is where we stand, and a lot of these payments are successful to the extent of 95%. For the other 5%, we are working on the correct message to be relayed back in the case of payment failure. Building on the transparency and accountability, Audit Online was a standalone application before e-Gram Swaraj, but then after the re-engineering, it was integrated. The idea is that since all your vouchers, all your expenditure are on a system, they can be pulled out at any time of your willing. And that is what Audit Online helps us achieve. The state government maps auditors onto various panchayats at the end of the year, because your day books close every day, and your financial year closure, once that happens, then all your accounts are available for any kind of audit. And the auditor does not even have to visit a panchayat. He or she could choose the vouchers that they are trying to look at closely, and they could be demanded, and the vouchers could be made available. These people could make their observations, and then the observations have to be attended. So more on that a little later. But this tells us that from 1920, when we made our first beginning, till the present day, the audit plans that have been created, that number is of the order of 90% of our total panchayats. The number of registered auditors that are mapped to panchayats, that is pretty static. But the number of observations that have been recorded have doubled as more and more panchayats have onboarded themselves. So we also work with the C&AG office, and financial audit standard audit certificate has been formalized. It has been discussed with the states, and they've been onboarded. And so all these things get added as adjuncts to the e-Gram Swaraj application. You create a plan, it feeds into e-Gram Swaraj. You start an activity, you tell the actions of module that you are beginning, you upload a photograph. You finish an activity, you say that you close that activity. For each of the vouchers that have to be created for payment against the activities that are being executed, they are created online on the accounting module. And once the activity is completed, it travels into the National Asset Directory. Once the asset has been completed and your year's accounts are available, then depending on who your auditor is, according to the mapping, these people can pull out the records from the standard database, look at your stuff, give you an audit certificate, and point out observations. What has begun from the current year is a focus on the action taken report, that what actually happened with the observations that were made, if there were institutional decisions to be taken, if there were panchayat specific acts that had to be carried out, if there were responsibilities to be fixed. So all that is now a part of the action taken report module. And these are interoperable. Like I said, it becomes possible for you to pull out the vouchers as per your requirement. If an auditor wants to look at only the July month or August month accounts of a certain GP, then he could ask for it. If there were 31st March accounts or the payments that have been made, those could be pulled out, and these people could raise their observations. So a need was also felt for greater compliances in the operations. So GEM was a natural choice, and we are working to give panchayats in all the states the option to procure items using GEM. And successful pilots have been carried out in 16 states. It's a work in progress in the other states. So once that happens, the panchayat, through their own e-Gram Swaraj login, can also access the GEM page. They could choose their the commodity providers from a pin code from the same district, and having got these, if the items that they are looking for are available, then these could be procured. Next. We said in the beginning, sir, that we'd like all departments to share their information with the panchayats. Panchayats are currently being given only the finance commission grants, but it is their mandate to be the planning, the implementers, the O&M, supervisors for all the activities that that get carried out in their panchayats corresponding to the 29 focus areas. So We've also worked with the line ministries. For instance, the local government directory code, sir, we have a mapping between the UIDs and the LGD. We have a PIN code LGD mapping, and we are working with all these other people so that on the eGram Swaraj landing page, the beneficiaries in a scheme, they are available for the panchayat, which is for the purpose of transparency. So if there are some scholarship candidates, so let the panchayat know about it and let everybody in the GP know about it, so that if there are candidates more deserving, then these people at least know that they've been wronged. These are the various reports that are currently available on. It's a work in progress. Like I said, the action taken report we've started in earnest in the current year, and the results are going to be available about 2 months from now, sir, when most of the audits of the previous years would be complete. So there are states who do better, and eGram Swaraj is like lowest common denominator. But the states that do better, we try and integrate ourselves. So it kind of weaves in and out of the eGram Swaraj applications. Karnataka is not mentioned here, who also integrate their meeting process with this. And we carry out bilateral integrations with all these entities so that it continues to be useful. I am not bossing around when I want people to accept eGram Swaraj. I want them to really love the application for what it can do to them. So life is good. 100% of the GPDPs got uploaded in the year 22-23. It happens till March sometimes, so it doesn't close sharply. In some states also run it through their Vidhan Sabhas. For instance, they create their Manrega budgets also as a part of the GPDP exercise. And Kerala says that our process is going to be delayed because we want to present it in the budget session, and it is pretty solid. So it's a so states are looking to make use of it for their activities even outside the 15th Finance Commission grants. Thematic panchayat development plans I've already spoken about that we did this exercise for the first time in 22-23. These are the current statistics. I mentioned earlier that the payment success rate is 95%. The states that are in gray are the ones who have not onboarded. Andhra Pradesh have got their own gateway. It is called CFMS. And with the mandate that has now come from Department of Expenditure, they have to onboard themselves onto the eGram Swaraj PFMS gateway. So that is a work in progress. The states in the states of Arunachal Pradesh have an internet connectivity issue. Likewise, for Manipur, Meghalaya, we have to deal with the 3 autonomous district councils because there is no area outside that. So that is also a work in progress, and they want us to deal only with the ADCs when we want to deal with all the village darbars. So that is what is taking us a little longer. But the stats show that we've got somewhere, and it helps us move forward on our trajectory. Audit online, the stats were already shown, so this is the diagrammatic representation of the same. And for future, sir, these are our plans. You mentioned in the beginning that I am also implementing Swamitva. So corresponding to the Abadi areas, now we have 1:500 scale, 5 centimeter accurate maps of very good quality, which can show you where the street lights are, where the common taps are, where the ditches are, what kind of road services, how many houses are kacha, pakka, and so on. So that gives us an unprecedented opportunity of using this for making property tax collection an easy task, because your assessments could be very easily done like in an Excel sheet. And if we can pool the information corresponding to the various departments on each of these land parcels, it becomes such a useful tool for any number of policy analysis or for visualization of what you're doing how a panchayat is making use of its resources. So the bullet number 4, sir, under 2024, scaling up of Gram Manchitra, that is something that is extremely important to us. So Gram Manchitra is a spatial application. It's handled by the NIC GIS team. So it used to have departments, 18, 19 departments share their information. So you'd find that bank, ATMs and everything, roads and schools and hospitals, these are all there. But with the, so that would be a 1:4,000 scale. But with Swamitva maps, we have better visibility over just the Panchayat Abadi areas, and looking for greater use of Gram Manchitra. Spatial application in designing their GPDPs is a goal that we've set for ourselves. And it is going to be a work in progress till 2029, and in Vision 2047, sir, which is still a work in progress, we are also looking to insert elements of planning, at least in the peri-urban areas, which are in dire need of such a plan. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have heard you with rapt attention, and we have benefited from listening to the vast gamut of work that has been undertaken in the e-Panchayat Mission Mode project. Kindly stay in the web room for the Q&A session. We'll take up the second speaker, Shri Rahul Kapoorji, on the e-governance awarded initiative of PM Swanidhi. Can I request Shri Rahul Kapoor to kindly make his presentation, please?
Thank you so much, sir. So it's a short presentation of just 10 slides. So I'll quickly take the audience through the initiative, the PM Swanidhi Yojana, that was launched in the background of the COVID-19 pandemic, and wherein the street vendors were one of the most affected people who were facing the loss of income and livelihoods, among, of course, the others who got affected during that time. And when we look at the overall ecosystem of street vendors, what we see is that it is an informal structure wherein they suffer from the lack of financial inclusion and lack of access to formal credit channels. So many a times these vendors, even today, even if after the pandemic is over, so they have to go through these informal channels wherein they have to pay something like 100 to 300% interest rates on the loan that they use for their working capital requirement. They also face the lack of recognition wherein they get into conflict with other urban stakeholders, be it the police, be it the urban local bodies. And so when the scheme was announced, it was basically to look at all these aspects of the challenge that street vendors face in a comprehensive manner. Built on a very strong technology platform, what the PM Swanidhi does is it basically tries to provide working capital to all the street vendors so as to resume their businesses. And that was the objective during that time when there was a loss of livelihood for all these vendors. It also brings the street vendors into the formal financial system, wherein they begin to start having a credit history for themselves, and therein they get eligible for bigger ticket size the loans, facilitating digital payments, and also by way of ensuring of cashback and getting them into the formal digital economy. And more importantly, building a safety net for the street vendor and his family, wherein the technology platform is also used to map the various street member family members and seeing and connecting them to the other government schemes on what all benefits they are eligible for and how they can be given provided those benefits. So it was a six-pronged approach. The first was, of course, the loans that was being given in three tranches of starting with 10,000 rupees. On repayment of the first loan tranche, the vendor becomes eligible for a second loan tranche of 20,000 and 50,000, which is the third term loan. We provide an interest subsidy of 7% on timely repayment of the loan. For recognition of the street vendors, a Parichay board is provided because this is one of the major issues that street vendors face. So with this Parichay board being recognized as a street vendor under the PM Swanidhi scheme, they do face reduction in harassment on streets. Connecting them to the various e-commerce vendors, like the food vendors have been connected to Swiggy and Zomato under the SWAT initiative. And Swanidhi Samriddhi, which is a very, very important component wherein we are trying to provide a safety net on pension, on financial inclusion, on maternity benefits, childcare benefits, be it One Nation, One Ration card, so other schemes of Government of India, how they have been leveraged to provide benefits to this vendor and his other family members. And of course, giving a push to digital payments wherein incentives have been given for digital transaction and other scheme. If we see the government process reengineering that this scheme has been able to do, what we see the street vendor ecosystem before Swanidhi was that there was, of course, lack of access to formal credit systems by the street vendors, which has been enabled after Swanidhi has come into place. There was a lot of dependence on ULBs for formal recognition because the certificate of vending was a very, very complex process. So what the scheme did was it introduced a concept of letter of recognition. So of course, it does not tenancy rights or the rehabilitation rights that a vendor is given in case of any displacement, but it does give him a recognition and makes him eligible for issuance of a certificate of vending. So this was a very important factor because of which the street vendors adopted this scheme with such enthusiasm. We never had a central database of street vendors. These were people who were not really identified, and most of them were treated as below poverty line. And in a recent interaction, one of the vendors mentioned this, that before the scheme came in, everybody used to think that we are BPL. But finally, after the scheme came about, people started recognizing us as nano entrepreneurs, that we are also contributing to the economy of the country. So that is where this change in perception, change in attitude has come about. So a very strong comprehensive database of not only the street vendors, but also their family members is being maintained under the scheme. There was an apprehension and adoption of digital payment platform, which is being pushed by way of training of beneficiaries, the penny drop transactions and other financial incentives by way of cashbacks that is being given, the provision of sound boxes to the lending institutions and the subsidy on that front as well. And the lack of holistic approach to bring about socio-economic upliftment of this particular class. And that has happened through the Samriddhi component. And as a result, the scheme was given the Silver Award in Excellence in Government Process Reengineering for Digital Transformation. So how has this GPR worked? So if you look at it, if you are talking about the three main stakeholders here, the first being street vendors, wherein the government to citizen interface has improved by way of execution speed. So the online process, right from the generation of application to disbursement of loans to their tracking, is happening through the platform that has been designed to run the program. The applications are online, the tracking status is online, the notifications are given through SMSs. Their accountability that has been brought about. So the status updates are given to the vendor at each level, to the lending institutions who are up to date, and even the ULBs, who are the third important stakeholders here. The access to information with regard to the issuance of letter of recommendation, the certificate of vending, the survey status, whether the survey has been done of vendors in the cities or not, and the improved customer service by way of direct benefit transfers to all the street vendors who are eligible for interest subsidy and cashback. And also the access to the 8 central welfare schemes that is being provided to the street vendors. When we are talking about this is the government departments and the other departments who are interested in providing social welfare benefits to the urban poor. So the whole process of generation of reports for the lending institutions for monitoring performance and pendency, the IT solutions for submissions and verification of subsidy claims, all that accountability is done online through the PASA portal. The increased access to information, which allows flexibility to the lending institutions to move application from one branch to another, all in through their Finacle system and also the PM Swanidhi portal. And it reduces the visits of the street vendors to bank disbursement of loan, because the entire process of eKYC, etc., is all done online. The government to government interface has also improved by way of daily reports that are made available to the urban local bodies, be it the state government, the ministry level. So the monitoring at all three levels of government is happening seamlessly here. We have given access to other line departments for on-spot beneficiary eligibility. So for example, if there's a beneficiary who's eligible for maternity benefits under Matra Vandana Yojana, so that concerned department can also access that information. It has been integrated with other government platforms for review and monitoring like the Prayas portal. And of course, there's convergence at the national and state level and also at the ULB level. So what we see today is that we did a study on the impact of the scheme through ISB. And what we found that 95% of the street vendors beneficiaries who availed commercial loans did it for the first time. And that was thanks to the scheme. And when we see the repayment, the first loan generated a return of rupees 1955 per month. I mean, this is the improvement in overall income generation, which was assessed at 20% by ISB. And the current performance on date, we have more than 52 lakh. I mean, this was a figure which was a few days back. And because we have a real-time dashboard which gets updated, so today we are at 52.90 lakh, and hopefully we will reach 53 lakh beneficiaries by end of day today. So everything, whether it's the first loan performance, the second loan performance, the third loan performance, the number of the loans that have been disbursed, which is amounting to 8,800 crore plus, the number of beneficiaries who are digitally active today, and the women beneficiaries. This is very, very important because the scheme has shown that 43% of the beneficiaries who have availed loans under the scheme are women. So there's a lot of granular data that has been made available, right from their contact details, phone numbers, genders, class. So a lot of data has helped us in basically customizing the kind of benefits that we can provide to the vendors. And what we talk about Swarnidhi se Samriddhi, so this was a component that was introduced much later. As on date, out of the total 52 lakh vendors, we have mapped something like 21 lakh vendors, and they have been provided benefits of 52 lakh schemes of other government departments. So it's their family members, if they are eligible for maternity benefits, or if there is somebody who's eligible, basically eligible for registration in the Bureau of Construction and other workers. So those benefits are also provided under Swarnidhi se Samriddhi. So this is the potential of using a digital platform to reach out to not only the families, but also their family members. So how does interoperability work here? Basically, we have a single window for all loan applications, and the entire eKYC process is done online through Aadhaar for all the beneficiaries. It is integrated with the bank's financial core banking systems, the PASA portal, which is our portal for basically validation of your interest subsidies, the cashbacks, and also direct benefit transfer to the beneficiaries. The other government portals which have been integrated for monitoring. We have close integration with NPCI, who basically validates all the digital related data with regard to how much of digital transactions are happening in the scheme. So it is an easy and transparent process for loan application through the PMS portal and also a PMS app that is available for vendor registration and their basically monitoring. There's a dedicated lending login for the lending institutions like banks, wherein they can process the applications, they can review it, and they can also monitor the disbursements online and even the repayments. The convergence with 5 other ministries at the national and state level. So you have the Swarnidhi se Samriddhi and the Swarnidhi se Samriddhi app, which helps in basically doing the on-street mapping of the beneficiary and their families. And with the lending institutions and the PFMS portal integration that has happened through the PASA portal for interest subsidy payments and the cashback to the beneficiary, which is happening to the lakhs of beneficiaries through DBT. So just to talk about the scalability, and there are end-to-end IT solutions for loan application, sanction, and disbursements that is happening here. So we have 66.8 lakh beneficiaries that have filed application with more than 400 lending institutions that have been onboarded. So at a time, this portal is able to process more than 2 lakh cases simultaneously. And right now we are doing 1 lakh cases every week. So the portal is fairly scalable. And if you see the direct transfer of cashback and interest subsidy, that has been given to more than 35 lakh beneficiaries who have been paying the loan on. Activity is captured through NPCI. The Swarnidhi se Samriddhi portal is also, and the app are also very scalable, and we can integrate more ministries and missions onto this. We are in talks with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for Ayushman Bharat, and there are other such similar schemes and the Department of School Education and Literacy that we would like to get onboarded onto this platform. So we have currently mapped 21.3 lakh families of street vendors with 49 lakh family members and 50 lakh scheme benefits that have been extended under this component. So who have been our partners in our journey? So these have been the street vendors and their families who are the most important stakeholders. The states, the union territories, the urban local bodies, the lending institutions, the public sector banks, the cooperative banks, the digital payment aggregators like PhonePe, BharatPe, Paytm, and the various central ministries. So the implementation partner has been SIDBI and QCI. They have been maintaining our platform. NPCI, who handles the digital transaction part, the Indian Bank, which manages all interest subsidy payments through their bank services, CSC and E-Services Limited, they basically help in mobilization of new applications, and the CGTMSE portal for credit guarantee that is provided under this scheme. Just to give a quick demonstration of some of the components of the scheme, I will just stop sharing here and I'll just make a quick presentation of the dashboard. so that yes, so if my screen is visible, this is the PM Swanidhi login page, but for the public, basically there's a different page that we can see. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so this is the landing page of the PM Swanidhi portal. As you can see, it tells you what is the amount of loans that have been disbursed in first loan, second loan, and third loan, and this data is all real time. And when you click on the PMS dashboard, you are basically taken to the dashboard of the scheme. And the login page basically takes you to this page. This is what the dashboard would look like for the public also. But this is more detailed once you log in, and you can basically see the gender ratio that today 43% are females and 57 are male. The category wise of beneficiaries, the general, OBCs, SCs, STs, how many are minority who have been given loan, what is the total number of beneficiaries that have been onboarded on the scheme. And you can see this state-wise, and you can see it ULB-wise. So for any of the states, I just need to select, let us say if I select Andhra Pradesh, and then the data will update for Andhra Pradesh. And I can actually go ULB-wise, I can see the data bank-wise for a particular bank, which are the number of loan applications that have been given, the various performance parameters, that who are the top lending institutions amongst the large states, small states, hilly states, who are the top cities who are performing in a particular week. So all that data is available on the dashboard, and there's several reports that this scheme generates that helps us in better performance monitoring and tracking. So I will not go into details for paucity of time, but I'll quickly show the other portal, which is the Swanidhi Se Samriddhi. Now, if you see, this is the login page of Swanidhi Se Samriddhi. You can reach there. A lot of information is also available to the public. So once you log in, you can basically see the performance under various schemes. Like, for example, 5,300 benefits have been given under PM Matra Vandana Yojana. Now, these are maternity benefits, so of course the number of people would be less here. But the beneficiaries under PM Suraksha Bima Yojana or Shram Yogi Mandan Yojana, now these are significant numbers. So a lot of traction for the other schemes are also generated, because every month, 1 week, we basically send teams on all the ULBs, and they basically reach out to the family members and start mapping them. And then the nodal officers are connected with, and they start onboarding them onto their schemes. So a lot of driving of these other schemes is being done under the PM Swanidhi scheme as well. So the dashboard is pretty detailed, and there's a lot of reports, etc., which are available. If you can see the top basically toolbar, and you can do the state tracking, the kind of camps that have been organized by the cities. So basically available here. Just stop sharing it. And I'll stop my presentation here, sir, and I'd be happy to take any questions if there are. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive presentations. We have a few minutes for the Q&A session. Let me flag the first question to Shri Prem Singh Nagar, Shri Alok Prem Nagar, with regard to the presentation on e-Gram Swaraj and audit online. Huge numbers of data sets, 2.69 lakh GPs, 2.78 lakh local bodies, 1.55 lakh crore payments done, 2.34 lakh audit reports, 17 crore beneficiary data sets. How are you using the big data analytics? Do you use an artificial intelligence system, and what is the nature of reporting that is being generated under this platform?
Thank you, sir. Earlier this year, we invited members from the industry. So we realized that it's a lot of data that we are sitting on, and how do we turn it into useful analytical tools for the state for decision-making aid. So we took their inputs. It was a day-long thing that we had. And based on their inputs, sir, we've been able to devise some reports for target groups who would be analyzing this data. For instance, e-Gram Swaraj is pretty straight, sir. What is the pace of expenditure? So earlier, the money used to be given away to these people based on the directly from the Ministry of Finance, and one never knew how much of it is being spent. So now there are reports for sector-wise reports for the nodes at the district and at the state level who could be monitoring this, and there are flags raised based on the issues that are noticed, which are turned into emails and sent to corresponding officers, so that it doesn't affect the flow of the next installment to these. Now, to be able to get the next installment, they should have spent 50% of the earlier money that was given to them. So it gives them a kind of tool to monitor this. And of course, sectoral tools, sir, if there are sectors that have not been addressed, if there are Mission Antyodaya survey gaps that have gone totally unaddressed in a GPDP, then they are turned into reports and provided to the officers at the relevant level, so that we are in an improvement cycle. Fraud data, we had a lot of inputs from the industry that came to us. They also told us that the presentations before the district, block, and state level officers, rather than have them in the form of dull reports, you can turn them into PPTs based on the tools that are already available. So that is a work in progress. And with regard to 17 crores, sir, those are mainly for the purpose of public disclosure. So at the time, we mandated 6 Gram Sabha meetings for every panchayat, and there are specific sectors and ministries that are mapped to each of these meetings. So these people are supposed to call these names out and tell the panchayat that these are the nominees or these are the beneficiaries under such and such scheme and so on. And if there are issues raised, then they are conveyed back to the departments.
Thank you very much. I have one question for Sri Rahul Kapoor with regard to the PM Swanidhi. 8,801 crore loan disbursed, 25 lakh street vendors are digitally active, 52 lakh welfare scheme sanctions have been there. I see a huge convergence between the central database